The GAA Hour is sponsored by Paddy Power. For exclusive content from their GAA ambassadors and other high-profile contributors, check out news.paddypower.com.
So it's all about the magic of the Leinster Championship. I'm surrounded by JJ, a Leinster legend, and Brian Carroll, a Leinster legend as well. So listen, we can crow about this till the cows come home.
How long do you have, Willie? Do we get an extra hour there today just to talk about the beauty of Leinster hurling?
Let's just say, lads, and let's be honest about this. If that finish to the Leinster Championship happened in Munster, we wouldn't hear the end of this. We
wouldn't be talking about it today either.
This would go down in folklore. This would be the magic confirmed. But let's be honest, like, all joking aside, listen, we don't want to be too hard on our Munster friends, but at the same time, this was a sensational end that didn't let up right until the final puck of the ball by Lee Chin, really, until the final whistle went, because Dublin and Galway were level 18 times, so there was no way of knowing that one. The Wexford Kilkenny one, you'd imagine Kilkenny were going to win it, and then they didn't, and then it was close. So, like, I mean, it just was Sky, I'd say, couldn't believe their luck.
It was an unbelievable game, even to be at. I think in the last few minutes, the Galway game, Dublin game finished before. That kind of trickled around the ground. You could see there were murmurs in the crowd, and Murphy had a free near the end, and everyone was telling him the crowd was saying, calm down, don't get back the ball back in play.
Both sets of fans.
Both sets of fans, because everyone knew they were through then, that kind of way. But it was great. The biggest roar in Wexford Park was when the announcer came over to Tanay, the Leinster final is Wexford and Kilkenny. The whole place absolutely erupted, because they're all out in the field there as well, because they wanted to stay around to see exactly what was happening, Right. So it's rarely you see two sets of fans after drawing a game. Two of them are absolutely delighted after the game.
Yeah, it was fantastic scenes, Brian. I'm not sure you might not have seen this on Sky. You had your own game.
No, I did. I saw it, yeah. And I tell you, I was supposed to be down there with RTE, and I was raging. I had a worse day myself, but no, after look, it was unreal. And I think, in fairness to Fergal Horgan, I think he actually added to it, because he let things run big time, and it really increased the whole atmosphere there. Because obviously Wexford Park's a hard place to play. They're a savage crowd there, and they're roaring and shouting. The Kilkenny crowd are obviously up for it as well, but I think the referee actually really added to that. And like, as you said there, JJ, at the end, Murphy, he was definitely stalling over that. He was taking as long as he possibly could. Bit of gamesmanship going on there, but no, look, everyone in Wexford Park came out very happy. But no, it's great. It's super for Leinster, and sure, look, the Leicester province and Munster, they've a lot of catching up to do now.
Yeah, no, definitely. Four teams on 5 points, and then you have Limerick getting into a final after losing twice. It's actually funny. With Wexford, you could paint Wexford's Leinster Championship in two ways. You could say they're in a Leinster final and they only beat Carlow. Or you could say Tipperary and Wexford are through to provincial finals after going unbeaten throughout the whole thing.
Whichever way you want to paint it.
Whichever way you want to paint it. Like,
be optimistic there.
Yeah, but incredible Wexford. Maybe it's their style of play that they're drawing three games. That's unprecedented. And in fairness to poor Galway, no one could have expected the draw in Wexford Park married to the Dublin win. Like, Galway were the ones in the driving seat going into that.
Yeah, driving down to the Wexford Park now, you'd be thinking of all the different scenarios in your head. The one thing you didn't give too much thought about, the one that actually happened,
was Galway losing.
You couldn't see the two results going against them. No. Fair enough, you could see him losing up in Parnell Park, but then you could see either Kilkenny or Wexford winning down in Wexford Park. You know what I mean? So I'd say it's the Galway lads are sick this morning, and probably won't hit them until Tuesday night when they're supposed to go back training again for the rest of the championship, and they're gone. They're packed up for the summer.
I'd say they're shell shocked, because way you're thinking of that. You're being positive. I saw a funny tweet from Oisin Langan. He said, with the Waterford and the Galway boys out so early, there's going to be some championship in Boston this summer.
There'll be a bit more going on at the
moment. Let's just say there'll be a very high standard in Boston. This
summer. There'll be big money there as well.
I'd say they can't believe their luck. I'd say their phones are hopping. But Dublin, I suppose, lads, finally stepped up to the mark, in fairness to them, and this was coming. Let's be honest about it. And Matty Kenny did it against his own county, would have some inside knowledge on them. And, that was the game of the weekend, really. It's just a pity. I don't blame Sky for picking Wexford Kilkenny. That was the more glamorous one. But this was an absolute brilliant game.
Yeah, it was a cracker. And I think Matty Kenny kind of spelled it out 100% correctly after the game. He said, look, these Dublin players are hurling well during the year. 30-35 minutes a game, but never put the full game together. Obviously they did there on Saturday night there as well, but in fairness, you see the development of that Dublin team. Chris Crummy went up got a penalty and scored a winning goal as well. So they're all out attack there as well. But mate of the show as well, Colm Keaney is supposed to run the show there.
Yeah.
And especially he's supposed to have a powerful second half. Now his physicality, you know, and Parnell Park would suit him down to round there as well. And especially the Galway lads matching up to him too. Like they'd stand toe to toe, and obviously he came out the better of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll talk
the
about
Keaney thing, I just not to go. I know we'll talk about later, but Conal Keaney, like in fairness to him, he was taken off with 20 minutes to go in the game against Wexford because I was up at that game, and that's when Wexford got their ascendancy in the game and took control. Dublin couldn't go route one. They didn't have someone there to offer something different. Oisin O'Rourke was missing that day as well. So, you know, it's amazing these small things when you do actually get your best 15 on the field and just let them at it. It's amazing how it can have a massive bearing on the outcome.
Yeah, and sometimes these 35-year-olds, it's decided before the game that he's coming out for 50 minutes to go. If he's fit to play the 70 minutes, don't be taking him off. And they didn't take him off.
No,
they left him on.
Like, if it was working, stick with it.
Yeah,
kind of will.
Yeah, exactly.
We see that more in football, probably, Willie. You know, like we've seen that with Mayo players there, and Colin Boyle and that for a couple of years. Like crazy stuff. Like you know, like a player's in the red zone or whatever, and you're like, so what? He'll get out of the red zone. You know, you'll get your breather back. Like, you know,
if you're on top of your marker as well, just leave him there. You know what I mean? Imagine the boost that gives your man. Oh, Keeney's gone off delighted. How happy days. Who else come on? Gives him a lift there as well. Like, you know what I mean? It's nothing worse than actually hurling a lad that's all over you. You tried him to hurl him every way. Physically, speed, he's beating you all ends up, and then you see him took off. Absolutely, it's great. It's a very big lift for a defender. Like.
Maybe because they're getting some live feed of GPS stats, and if the GPS are slowing down for a while. But I've often been in games where I go, I need to calm down here for a minute, or I won't see out the game. And you might get yourself a little like you might not make the same runs as you did, but you're conserving a bit of energy for the last 5 minutes when you're going to need them.
Sometimes the ball doesn't come near you either. Like, you know what I mean? It's completely out of your control the way the game goes and flows. When it is there, you have to go and win it. Like, but you're then if you took off for the last 10 minutes, I said the ball would have went over your wing there as well. So it's frustrating with organised substitution before the game. I wouldn't be into it. No, I wouldn't be into it either. Come here, lads. I'm just wondering, will Tipperary, Brian, I'll go to you first on this. Bubbles scored, I think it was the 22nd point, and the camera from behind the goal showed it, and Bubbles jumped in the air and stuck his fist in the air, and a couple more Tipperary players put their hands in the air as well. Would they not have been better advised to just win that game as a gentleman and shake hands after it? Not saying they're not gentlemen now, but you take my point. Like Limerick, that game couldn't have gone better for Limerick. Yeah, look, Limerick obviously happy enough with how that went. They still were comfortable enough in the game without ever really pushing on to try and win it. But, you know, they stayed in touch and they gave a run out to a few players. But just in fairness to Bubbles, I could see where he came from in terms of that fist bump. He had worked hard all game. He'd missed a couple of chances, and he was just absolutely thrilled to actually get a point. And the kind of the way the score came as well, they kind of turned Limerick over, and you know they'd worked hard, and eventually he got his point. But you know, I see a massive difference in the likes of Bubbles and the tip forwards in general. And I think there was one ball in particular, I can't remember. I think it was Noel McGrath had it in the middle of the field, and Bubbles was over on the old stand side waving his hands looking for the ball, and he was in a bit of space, but Noel McGrath hit the other end or hit it into full forward into Shamey or something. And I know well, and I've been in that place, and I'm sure you have too, Willie, as a forward, there's often a day where you go, oh, for fuck's sake, why didn't he pass it to me? And you kind of throw a bit of a strop. But to be fair to Bubbles, he just turned around and sprinted as hard as he could, trying to get in on the breaking ball at the full forward line. And I just said, like, that's the difference in the attitude at the moment. And it's those small things, that shift in the emphasis in the mind where they're just not giving up on anything and they're just working their arses off. And look, I think that's savage. And when you see Bubbles at that, like, it's infectious because, you expect Bonner Marr to be doing it day in, day out. And look, Shamey's obviously upped it as well in terms of his record. But when you see Bubbles doing it, Tip are in a different mindset completely. Yeah, okay. So maybe it would be a bit... It was individual for Bubbles to get his score. He worked hard. He was happy for himself. I'd say it wasn't just a team performance. It was just Bubbles was happy with himself because seeing Paddy Marr after winning a couple of frees came out, he stopped himself from doing it. Do you know what I mean? Roll that on 6 weeks. He's not learning semi-final or something that Paddy wins the same free, he's going to be fist pumping as simple as that. But he stopped himself from doing that. I'd say Bubbles was just individually, he grew himself into the game. Didn't have a great start, but he got better as the game went on when he went out the field there as well. I'd say he was just for himself to get that score after he worked hard. He was happy with himself. Maybe that was it. But even on the Limerick thing, right? So we'll talk about this game in part 2. So we're not going to get into any analysis about it. But like a couple of things from the game. Well, I'm going to add in the fist pump. I'm going to add in the Bonner Marr injury, the Cottle Barrett injury, and the fact the final, they have a home and away agreement, so the final's in Limerick. Okay. Jesus, this is looking, I'd say Limerick. Now, Limerick obviously
wanted to win that because they couldn't have been sure. Although they were fairly sure, were they? Depending on the other results,
again, things had to go very, very wrong,
very
for
badly,
them,
and they would have been getting.
Clare had to hammer them, didn't they?
Yeah, Clare had to hammer
Scoring
Cork.
difference,
Yeah, so that would have been it. And Keane Lynch is on the bench. Hannon is injured, I think, and a couple of things like that. Mulcahy's on the bench as well.
Still, if you're in that Limerick full back line now and you're facing the same forwards again in 2 weeks' time, they won't look forward to that. You know, like, in a way, because they got the better of them as well, and they worked hard and turned them over a few times as well. Look, again, you could look at it 2 ways. Could add to their motivation coming in 2 weeks' time. That's right. This is not going to happen. We know what to expect. But if Tipperary up it again, like, you know what I mean, I don't think that's the best Tipperary can play either. To be fair,
yeah, probably not. It was a strange game in that, you know, you kind of knew both teams were through, and it was kind of feeling that they were. But what was the other one that I was going to talk about? Oh yeah, Jerry O'Connor. So what's your take on Jerry O'Connor, lads? Like, I mean, in Jerry O'Connor's defence, I think it was Colm Malone pushed Kearney into him. And is his natural reaction say, get off me or whatever? I don't. Now, I'm completely very consistent on any mentor ever putting their hands on a player or getting involved. But I don't think he wanted to get involved until Kearney was pushed right onto him and he pushed him away. I don't think it was the most serious thing I've ever seen.
No, but he shouldn't probably have been that close to it. I know he was
he's
arguing.
in his technical area though, is he?
I know he was arguing the line ball right now, to be fair. But when he came back, he had enough time to stand back out of the way. But he seen Daniel Kearney come from, and he stepped forward and he pushed him over.
Was Kearney pushed into him, I think?
Yeah, but he kind of pushed him across there as well. He knew what he was doing, to be fair. Like, you know what I mean, you couldn't say he didn't know what, he just reacted. But he did exactly know what he was doing. And because of Kearney pushing Kearney, Kearney's hurled up and hit Colm Malone, and then he tried to go to the referee saying that Kearney hit Colm Malone, but only for he hadn't pushed him, he wouldn't have hit him either.
Right.
You know, kind of way, he made a big deal out of the whole thing, but you just can't put your hands on any players. Like.
No, definitely not. What do you think of that, Brian?
No, I agree. He seemed to just red mist ascended over him because he pushed Kearney, then he turned around and he got in a right Barney with it looked like one of the Cork selectors or someone. He was given out to the referee. He was looking for like the referee to do something with Kearney after Kearney catch Malone. You're like, you caused that. Hold on a second. It's by all accounts, it's completely out of character for him. So it just probably shows the pressure and that they've been under in Clare. But look, he's obviously going to face a ban on that, and there's no doubt about it. And I he won't have any complaints. I'm sure when he wakes up this morning, he won't be happy with what happened himself. And there's no place for that in the game. Being honest.
No. Well, he's definitely getting a ban. I'm not defending that. I'm just saying he didn't go out looking for it. It just came to him, and he reacted. Yeah. So I would say,
I said this morning, is he standing over his reaction? He's probably not, that kind of way. So he'd be probably half embarrassed in what he done. But again, his height of it, he reacted. Look, tensions were high at that stage, and he reacted. But unfortunately, he got caught and he got the red card.
He definitely did. Here, Donald Maloney was talking after that game, and like everybody's been down on Clare, but they produced a great performance yesterday. And Donald Maloney said the players produced it. They pulled themselves together on Monday night and met with themselves and called us in afterwards. The players drove this. They trained brilliant on Wednesday and Friday. We all met yesterday and spoke about what the day would mean for us. And I just thought that was great. And the amount of teams I've been on where players, that's where you really get it out amongst yourselves, and then the leaders have to talk. And I like the idea of calling the management in, and then they'll chair and take it from there. And have you decided now, lads? This is ye. All that stuff works.
Home truths there as well is great.
And realistically, I'd be surprised if they hadn't done that after the Tip game, because that kind of thing maybe steadies the ship. Lads, this is up to ye. Do you want to fit? You know what I mean? And they needed the two beatings maybe to do it.
And a weird kind of way, if they had upped the game against Tip and Limerick as well, and kept down the scoring difference, they could have been a lot closer as well. Like, but I'd agree with that. Players have to drive the whole thing, and with players' meetings as well, you can say a few home truths. And the kind of guy that's not usually talking, when he stands up and talks in that players' meeting, everyone listens. Absolutely brilliant. And then everyone's focused, and then the manager come in. Then you can tell the management, right, this is what we spoke on, this is what we're going to work on. And when it comes from the players, they have to go out in the field and kind of back that up.
They've ownership of it. Now, would Cody have let you do player meetings?
I would have player driven. Like, he'd an open forum there as well. If you want to say something, stand up and say it. But again, be careful what you say if to back it up.
Well, you can say it in the players' meeting, but I'd imagine there would be players that would speak in a players' meeting that would be terrified maybe to speak when Brian would be there. Would that be fair?
You need an open, again, players and management are in for the same reason, and if you think serious enough about something and you don't say it, or you're not true to yourself, you're not true to the squad either. So you have something to say it. You mightn't agree with, and then you can argue it out there as well, but get out and say it. Don't be afraid to say it.
It's not what all good teams are made on, though. Those leaders or those people that are willing to stand up and put their neck on the line essentially and call each other out. And no one no one gets take over it. You mightn't like it initially, but like, you appreciate you're all in it for the same reasons, and essentially it's to win. And you need characters or leaders like that to stand up and grab the bull by the horns and say some tough things to each other, and give it and take it on the chin as well. And as you said, JJ, like, you can't, like, I know Brian's obviously a massive character, and but you like, that's why you were winning All Irelands, because you were people still willing to step up and say it.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to, look, if I am going to say something, I do have to perform too. So the onus is back on me. And but that's what you want, isn't it? Like, I'm sure, Willie, you've seen that plenty of time down through the years too.
Yeah, no, it works in a lot of ways. And I think it's important as well that you can be honest with each other and criticise each other without hanging each other out to the manager as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're
It's a lot
being
more
a
honest,
weasel.
though, to be
It's a
fair.
lot more
It is,
honest, just with players on their own.
Oh,
You know,
it is,
you're not getting.
But you get a lot further as a team when you do that, though, as well.
Yeah, I think you do. I think
you can't have too many of them either.
No, you can't either.
It's
No.
one
It
a
has
year,
to be
that's it.
timed right.
Yeah,
It has to be timed right. Come here quickly, JJ, now that's come into my head. Was there something going on with Aidan Nolan down in Wexford Park? Did he get sent off or not get sent off?
After the game.
He got sent off
straight red, I think,
for
after the game.
Complaining to the ref?
Yeah, I was talking to a couple of guys there this morning and Saturday night there as well after the game. On the clock in Wexford Park, it said 63 and 13 seconds, or 73 and 13 seconds, and it was supposed to be 4 minutes.
4 minutes, yeah.
But the referee did play 4 minutes. The clock stopped. So I think Aidan Nolan, seeing the time on it, went over to the referee after the drawn game. There's another minute on it, you never played it on. Well, he said more colourful language than that, I'd say, you know what I mean? But he got the straight red after that. I think that's what the confusion was.
Right.
He might have thought they were gone, like.
That was it. He would have thought they were knocked out.
And then he seen it was 63 minutes 13 or 73 minutes 13 seconds. And then he said went over to the referee and he said something to him. He got straight red after it.
Because some of the confusion was that Davy denied he got sent off then afterwards. Did you hear that as well?
I think it was definitely a straight red anyway, I think. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Okay. Quickly on Galway, lads, we've loads to get through today. So was Galway, like, we've mentioned them already, but it was their failure to beat Carlow by much that really came back to haunt them in the end, wasn't it? Like, they only beat them by 6 points when the other three teams hammered
12, 13 points. You know what I mean? It's a lot of scoring then after it. And then I'd say against Kilkenny as well, they kicked themselves because they had the scorable freeze, and they could have had Kilkenny dead and buried. You know, they could have beaten by, realistically, if you sit back and look at it, they scored out of freeze, they would have been 10 or 12 points up before Kilkenny got that run the last 10 minutes. If you're 12 points down, do you make that run? You mightn't do, you know, the kind of way. So a couple of things now that Micheál Donoghue will be looking back on this morning, said it'd be frustrating. But then again, the table doesn't lie, you know, the kind of way after 4 games.
Doesn't lie, but it was that kind of first round game against Carlow, and often with the promoted teams, Brian, they'll do probably well in the first game or two when there's a novelty to them and it's a real kind of championship, and then they take a couple of beatings and Wexford get them in the last round. You know, if Galway got them in the last round, they probably would have hammered them as well. But that's what it came down to, the scoring difference, obviously, with what they beat Carlow by. Like,
yeah, but we were critical though of Galway after the Carlow and Wexford game. You know, like against Wexford as well, they just pottered along, particularly in that second half. No full credit to Wexford, they obviously battled really hard after Davy was sent up to the stand. But you know, Galway didn't seem to drive on at all. Like they were very comfortable for long parts of that game against Wexford, but didn't drive it home essentially, and they brought on Johnny Glynn too late, and particularly because when they had played Wexford last year, they completely blitzed them by going route one. So I thought they overthought it, and like obviously they played excellent against Kilkenny, but it seemed to be almost too little too late. And then those few matches week in week off, it's very hard on the body, and we've seen that now 2 years running.
Yeah, it's very hard. Jesus, hard just to picture that they're gone. Like,
yeah.
they're too good to be gone, really, aren't they?
Is,
like,
with
Dublin stepping up to the plate, there's always going to be a big name going out.
You've Galway and Clare, 2 lads who were in the semi-final last year.
Both gone.
Gone out of the championship.
That's fantastic. Eddie Brennan made 6 changes. Remember, we were talking last Thursday on the show, or we were talking last Monday on the show with the two of you about what they would do. Tipperary pretty much played their starting team. It looks like the Bonner-Mar will be gone. Eddie made 6 changes, so he left off Paddy Purcell, Chad Dwyer, Donica Hartnett, Ryan Mullaney and Willie Dunphy. So it's not like he was leaving off anyone. He was leaving off a lot of their big players. Mark Kavanagh was out and Enna Lyons was out as well, but Kavanagh was on the bench. I don't think he even came on at all. So you'd imagine Laois have loads in the tank for this final. Brian, they look to be in a good place, although Joe Quaid said after the game, I think anyone with a brain in their head would realise after about 10 minutes of the second half that it turned into a shadow boxing exercise. Yeah,
Joe Quaid's astute too, in fairness to him. Like, you know, he got a big win against Antrim up there as well, and you know, that game was more or less a foregone conclusion. Both teams were like, Laois obviously knew they were in the final, but Westmeath, you know, fairly comfortable that they were going to be there as well. And there wasn't going to much change that. So I still think that's all to play for in the final, because Westmeath are a tough cookie to crack, and they'll relish a hop off Laois. Now Laois have been obviously impressive. They've won their 4 games, so they're quite happy where they're going, and it's all positivity coming out of Laois hurling at the moment with Eddie Brennan in charge. So it's great to hear it, and it's great to see it, and they're getting their better hurlers playing well again. Chad Wire coming back into serious form. Paddy Purcell, working really hard, and Matthew Heelan's a great stalwart. He's still going there, and like fair play to him. So positivity, but I wouldn't rule out Westmeath either. They're good, and Joe Quaid is very astute, as I said, and Killian Doyle is the form man. We spoke about him at length last week. He's the form man in that Joe McDonagh Cup at the moment as well. So I think that should be a cracker of a game, to be fair.
Yeah, no, it definitely will. There was a draw this one, wasn't it? Laois didn't win. Draw. Yeah. I was thinking you do that. I have to talk about Offaly now before we move on into part 2. Brian obviously went down to the Christie Ring. Very disappointing result. All hinged obviously on an early sending off, which must be very disappointing.
Yeah. Look, obviously you lose 4 games, you get relegated. There's no one gonna complain about that. And the sending off, we started really well, went 4 points and no score up, playing with the wind. And very, very pleased with the way we started. Then man sent off, and not playing the whole manager's card. I actually didn't see it. So by all accounts, it was an off the ball incident between the wing forward and Peter Geraghty and the wing back. So Peter Geraghty got a red card, and we dealt with okay for a couple of minutes. We got a penalty. Unlucky that was stopped, and then we had a couple of chances, didn't take them, and then Kerry just gradually with numbers they started to work their way into the game, and they got a goal just before half time. So playing with the wind, we were 4 points down at half time, so it looked like we were really up against in the second half. So
and a man down. So look, in fairness to the boys, they never threw in the towel. They kept battling. The odds were completely against them, and Kerry pulled away a couple of times, 3 or 4 points, but we got it back in. As I said, four matches, 4 losses. We lost 3 of them by a puck of a ball. So it just shows that there is nothing between the 4 or 5 teams that are down there. So it's disappointing, and obviously it's not where we want Offaly hurling to be. And but you have to take your medicine too. Yeah, you were being tagged in some tweets by a high-profile Offaly pundit. Daithí Regan. Was this on the Friday before or the Thursday? It was the Thursday before the game on Saturday, wasn't it? It was the Thursday.
I woke up to it on Friday morning.
On Friday morning, so it's Friday then, yeah. But so I know Daithí well from my time in Off the Ball, and I like Daithí, and I appreciate that Daithí speaks his mind, and I appreciate that he doesn't pull any punches even with his own county, and I appreciate all that. But what I can't understand is how Daithí thought this was going to be a good idea the day before a feckin' Christie Ring playoff match. Like, how is this going to benefit anybody? Like, if he had an axe to grind, that was not the time to do it. It was maybe after the match or whenever. This had to be a distraction to the team, lads. And I think that there's it's a toxic county at the moment. And like the fact that this is even entertained, that a high-profile pundit can undermine the management the day before a relegation playoff. And I'm sure Daithí's not even receiving much criticism in Offaly. It's toxic. It's not the way any county with any self-respect would be acting. And this should be rounded on and criticised, that he's taken away from that management team and that group of players the day before a match. There's a time and a place to criticise your own county, and I appreciate lads that do it, because it's not easy to do. But you can't undermine them. Listen to it. Here's the tweets, JJ. I'll throw it to you first before Brian. Travelling to Tralee tomorrow with a crowd and hope Offaly win. And tags in Brian Carroll, however, I'm fucking disgusted at the treatment of Kevin Dunn. One of our most committed young fellas, excellent versus Laois and the best player versus Westmeath, gets fucked out for lads who were not there all year out, and a player not involved until last week gets to travel after 3 or 4 sessions. Not even the balls to tell him to his face. A joke. I hope we win, and I hope this crowd get the FUCK out. What a disgusting way to treat a brilliant young man. I don't give a shite what service the current Offaly management team has given in the field, but they lack balls in facing up to their responsibility. It takes manners. No balls to face up to a young man and be honest. For FFS lads, cop on. Now, I don't know, JJ. Could you imagine anyone in Kilkenny doing... Now, I know Kilkenny are standard bearers, but any county, I even look at it in Laois. wouldn't dream of doing this the day before they play Meath or in a championship match or in any championship match.
My big problem with this now is just the timing of it, and it just fair enough. You make your point. Your point is valid 2 days after the game there as well. Like, you know what I mean? I just don't see the relevance of putting it up there for with the timing of it. Important game. Go down and support your county. Whatever happens after, we'll back them up on it, and then make your point. You know what I mean? It's still relevant 2 days after.
Yeah, it's relevant then. Yeah,
it's just my biggest point, my biggest grievance with that tweet. Now, I've no issues. Anyone having their opinion, they can say what they want. But the time and how is that constructive to Offaly winning that game there on Saturday? It's not. That's my biggest issue with it, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely not. Brian, what are you thinking? I saw Joachim Kelly say after the match, there are arseholes on social media criticising us. They're gobshites who know nothing about hurling. So I don't know. I'm sure there was more than just Dahi maybe criticising, or maybe that was aimed at Dahi. I don't know. Well, like, what do you think about this, Brian? Because I think it's just the kind of culture of criticising, and the culture of not trying, and the culture of the lads that don't want to try are cooler than the ones that actually want to try, and then the pundits that want to be the naysayers, they're more popular than the ones that want to be positive. It just seems that there's if you want to do a root and branch review of Offaly hurling, every aspect of it needs to be improved.
Yeah. Oh, look, obviously the timing was despicable, but it was premeditated, and he knew exactly what he was at, and it was a personal attack on me in particular, because obviously I'm not manager of Offaly. I'm part of a management background, but you know how I became the fall guy for Offaly hurling it beggars belief from my perspective. Look, just it's really disappointing, because we're like a pantomime in Offaly, as you said. You know, it's constantly happening, washing our dirty linen in public, and it's horrible to see. And it's clear that there's personal agendas by people, you know, some dominant people in the media, and it's really disappointing. Like, we question absolutely everything publicly in Offaly. So you know, we've had the last couple of years, and I'm sure you've heard this, the best hurlers in Offaly are not hurling. So one of the first things Joachim did when he went in was call in some players that weren't on the panel, because there was injuries, and because there was you know, it was an open extended panel, the same way as was with Kevin Martin. You know, there's no such thing as a set panel. And the first thing he said to the players was, lads, look, we appreciate everything you've done under Kevin Martin's time, but from now and for the next month, we'll pick lads based on how you hurl in training, the same way as is in any self-respecting county that wants to get on. You pick guys in form, not based on their names and what they've previously done. So, like, you know, we've had a huge uproar. You know, it's unfortunate that Kevin Dunn's name gets dragged into this. He's one of 8 players that didn't make the matchday squad. They weren't dropped off the panel. They didn't make the matchday squad. And again, similar to any county team I've ever been involved with, you know, we don't make the rules. The GAA make the rules, and how many can actually tug out on the day. So you know, it's sensationalism too, and it's obviously of one side of the coin. So it's hugely disappointing. Like, for instance, Mark Ellis was standing in the terrace looking at the Cork Tipperary game. A week later, he's standing, you know, he's playing centre back for Cork, and it's a great move by Myler, you know, and there's no big furore in Cork over that. You know, there's, for instance, Henry Shefflin, Jackie, Tommy Walsh, none of them could make their team in their final year with Kilkenny after all they did for Kilkenny. No one was calling for Brian Cody's head. Same with Bernard Bogan up in Dublin. You know, they don't question these managers, but we seem to we want it everywhere. You know, we just want to question absolutely everything. From my own perspective, it was probably the worst 48 hours I ever had associated with hurling, and the result was obviously part of that. But just in terms of the abuse that I took online at social and during the game, where, you know, people just travelled 3 hours just to abuse myself and the other members of the management team for the whole 70 minutes, standing behind the dugout.
Brian, what would be the main thrust of that? Kind of what Dahi's saying, bringing in lads?
That's all I can assume it was, because again, opinion on absolutely everything, but you know, that's not Offaly supporters, and, you know, I appreciate there's a lot of good Offaly people out there as well, and there was a good Offaly crowd travelling, and you know, they appreciate that what the players did their absolute utmost to try and win that game. And essentially, look, we just weren't good enough, neither last Saturday nor the 3 previous games in the Joe McDonagh. And I've said this hasn't happened overnight. This has been coming for quite a while. But it's disappointing to see it all happening in public, and no matter what way it's been done, it's always been questioned, so it's disappointing, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe it was Dahi and the crowd he was going down with. He said he's going down with the crowd. We'll have to find out where Dahi's situated himself.
Reading his tweets there, shouting out down.